Hello there, and welcome to this presentation on GCSE Religious Studies at Reigate School. As you can see, the GCSE Religious Studies has 6 units. The top 2 units on this screen make up Paper 1, and in Paper 1, children learn about the religions of Christianity and Islam, going into depth about their beliefs and the practices of modern believers. In paper 2, students learn about the 4 last units on this slide, and this makes up the thematics paper, which is an ethical, philosophical, moral look at some big questions of life, death, and the universe. Now, the assessment process is 2 exams at the end of year 11. Each of these are worth 50% of the overall GCSE. As I said, it's split into 2 papers, and each paper is an hour and 45 minutes long. And you can see that children learn 2 units in each year from year 9 through to year 11. It's really important that I emphasize that when we study RE or RS at Reigate School, we don't just look at religion, theology. For example, we look at 3 lenses. We use these lenses to study RE. We use theology, which is looking at sources of authority, scripture, and scholarship. But we also use sociology, which is up to date social data, anthropology, looking at how people practice their faith, but also what social sciences tell us about the lived experience of believers in modern Britain. We also use philosophy as part of our GCSE, and we'll be looking at the big questions of life and not just seeking to answer those questions, but really to think about what the questions teach us about our own selves and about those around us. So RE is not just looking at religion, it's a broad scope of philosophy, of ethics, of morality, of sociology, and of theology. The first unit, which you do in year 9, is a unit on Christianity. And as part of this, you'll see there are a broad spectrum of questions, each linking, as I've mentioned, to our 3 lenses. So our theological questions might be, what do Christians believe about God? But some more philosophical questions might include, how can a loving God allow suffering in the world? Looking sociologically, we might look at the concept and the practice of pilgrimage and how Christians help others in modern Britain. A similar look within our Islamic studies. So, again, we'll look at theology, we'll look at philosophy around questions of free will, and we'll look at sociology, including the practice of prayer 5 times each day and how Muslims help modern British society as well. These 2 units make up the entirety of paper 1. Children learn about Christianity in year 9 and Islam in year 10. We break up the study of these 2 units with also a study on paper 2. The first paper 2 unit that children will start learning at the end of year 9 is an ethical look at religion and life. And this life includes life on Earth, such as the environment and animals, but also life on Earth, such as human beings. We'll think about the big questions of life, such as, where do humans come from? Where did the universe originate? Is life on Earth designed, or is it here by chance? We'll look at environmental issues surrounding our world and the future of our planet and ask the questions, should we all be vegetarian? We'll look at the concept of human life being sacred within Christianity and other religions. Look at how this view amongst some people that human life is sacred might impact upon their views towards other practices such as abortion and euthanasia. And within paper 2, units such as this, we look at different arguments around debate. So whilst we look at arguments from, for example, Christianity, we also look at non-religious arguments, and we look at different arguments within Christianity. So arguments which support euthanasia, arguments which are supportive of abortion, and also arguments which are critical of both practices. So we look at a broad spectrum of ideas, and at no point do we make our own judgments, or as educators do we place a stand on any of these points. We help children to think critically about the world around them, and to come to positions of informed judgment themselves, which will help them both in their assessments but also in their wider lives. The second unit that makes up paper 2 that children study at the start of year 10 is the unit of peace and conflict. And with this, we are looking at the morality and the ethics of violence. We are looking at the difference between protests and riots, looking at if either are effective in seeking social change. We look at whether war can ever be justified, and we look within that at things like just wars, holy wars, and examples of wars that are fought for greed, for self-defense, and retaliation. We look at the ethical issue of nuclear weapons, and we look at whether the UK should get rid of its nuclear weapons or should continue to bolster its collection. And once we've looked at total global annihilation, we then turn our attention to pacifism, and we look at whether that is possible or whether it is a pipe dream believed by some and not actually possible to practice. In year 11, children take a look at crime and punishment, and this really helps to complement the work they're doing in history and sociology, where they look at units of a similar focus. Within RE, we look at the ethics of crime and the ethics of punishment. So we start by looking at why people commit crime, and children consider whether crime can ever be justified, if there can ever be a reason for crime that is good. We then turn our attention to punishment, and we look at why society punishes people before seeking to understand what is the most effective way of punishing criminals, and the most effective way might depend on what you seek to achieve with that punishment. We look at the reoffending rate in the UK, which is much higher than other nations, and we look what it is that is causing our reoffending rate to be so high, and maybe what the UK might learn from other societies. And then we turn our attention to the ethical conundrum of the death penalty, and we consider if the death penalty should be legalised again in the UK, and whether bringing back the death penalty would reduce rates of crime in our society. Finally, children at the end of year 11 will learn about relationships and families, and again, this is an ethical look at these two things. We will look at the ethics around sex and sex before marriage. We'll look at the questions regarding family types, and again, we will give a non-biased and completely free from judgment debate around the quote-unquote best family types. We'll look at polygamy and polyamory and consider whether these are helpful or harmful for society, and we'll look at the concept of marriage and divorce and ask the questions: why is marriage declining, and why are divorce rates on the rise? A typical lesson for religious studies looks like this. Please take a minute to pause if you'd like to and read through the information on the screen. We believe in the power of knowledge in RE, and so each of our units has knowledge organisers that look a lot like this. These knowledge organisers seek to help children to make sense of the knowledge they are learning, but also will help those at home to support children with their studies. People at home can take these knowledge organisers and can ask children questions about the content that is on it to help children with their retrieval practice, with their revision, and to help them consolidate information in their long-term memory. Examples of student work look a bit like this. Again, we believe in the power of knowledge, and we're very proud of children being able to retain lots of information and use it in a really powerful manner in writing essays. Essays make up 50% of our GCSE exams, and we are experts at supporting children with their writing, getting the best out of children in terms of their academic practice, their essay writing, their critical thought, and their analysis. Some careers that are linked to religious studies. This can go anywhere in a child's life. Studying RE at school is an incredibly beneficial process because children learn about the world around them, but they also develop skills of critical thought and analysis that will help them in any field they choose. These are just some of the careers that are really favourable when it comes to RE. Some questions that you might want to think about and you might need answers to. Again, do feel free to pause the video and read through the questions and the answers. And do get in touch with the school if you have any more questions that are not answered on this slide.